Let's speak honestly. Kimono are super inconvenient. The long sleeves end up everywhere. It's hard to walk long distances. Sitting for a long time means that your front skirt will start to open up with the time. But there is something that makes our kimono life so much easier, which is a hakama. And today I want to talk more about the history of hakama and the hakama itself. In case you're here for the first time, my name is Billy Matsunaga and I'm a fully trained and certified kimono teacher and stylist. This is the second video of my little hakama series, and today I want to talk more about the hakama itself and its history, because it is actually pretty interesting how the hakama came into its shape that we know today. I think we all can tell kimono are super inconvenient. We just tried it once to wear a kimono for a day and tried to cook, clean the house, or just work normally. I guess you can tell it wasn't the most practical clothes you could have worn for that. And this is because this is what kimonos are meant to be. Today we are wearing a kimono that is a simpler form of what the aristocrats wore in the 9th century. And at that time, of course, aristocrats didn't have to work. They didn't have to wear practical clothes. So wearing such long clothes and many layers was actually a statement of status. And especially during that time, that is called Heian period, that lasted from the 9th to the 12th century, that way of thinking was really exploding, and princesses wore a so-called Juni Hitoe. Juni means 12 and Hitoe means layer, which means they wore 12 layers of kimono. I talked very detailed about Juni Hitoe and what the aristocrats were wearing at that time in my video about the emperor's coronation gown. So if you want to know more about that, make sure to jump over to that video and I will link that video down below. The second layer of a so-called Juni Hitoe was actually a red hakama that is called nagabakama. Naga means long, and it was indeed very long, because usually 30 centimeters or a foot length was dragged over the floor when walking. This means hakama has actually a history that lasted longer than 1,000 years, and to be super detailed, it's even longer than 1,600 years. And this is because it was one of the first garments we know that Japanese actually wore, and it was part of the Japanese wardrobe ever since, and worn by women and men. Later, during the so-called Edo period that we refer to as the Japanese Middle Age and lasts until the 19th century, that is also a time when the samurai already ruled over Japan, men and women had to wear different clothes. And this is when hakama became to be a garment for men only. But still, the kimono that women were wearing were very long. Those kimonos were called Kosode, and they're very close to what we know as a kimono today. And they still dragged the hem over the floor for about 30 centimeters or 1 foot. And when you think about it, you have to travel or walk in that. It's just impossible. So on Japanese woodblock prints, we also know as ukiyo-e from the Edo period, you often see people wearing those very, very tight, kind of leggings-like trousers under the kimono. These trousers are called Momohiki, and they really look like trousers. They are tied up the waist like hakama, and the length usually reaches the ankles. And this allows to wear up your very long kimono or kosode without showing bare legs. Trousers were actually brought by the Portuguese to Japan in the 16th century, and ever since it became part of the Japanese wardrobe. Momohiki was worn as an undergarment under the kosode, which made it easier to work, so it was especially worn by the working class, and it is still worn today at very traditional work. Like, for example, soy sauce companies, they still sometimes wear that. Another kind of hakama you might often see in period dramas is the so-called tatsukebakama. And this hakama is very voluminous on the top, and the area around the ankles is very tight like Momohiki. And this was worn very often by male travelers in the Edo period. And now you are wondering, or you should at least be wondering, when did the hakama became so short? And this is also something that happened during the Edo period. And this was to make a hakama more convenient and more affordable. Because it is cut in length, it's called hirabakama, which means cut hakama, or called hanbakama, which means half hakama. But today it is better known as hirabakama, which means ordinary hakama or just hakama. A very popular hakama among the working class, especially for farmers, is the so-called yamabakama, or we also know this as mompe. And it's said to be started up in the northeast Japan and spread over whole Japan before and during the Second World War. At that time, it was the most common garment for women, and this was because they had to work and they had to rebuild a country. There is a very famous scene in the manga called In the Corner of the World, where the main character has to retailor one of her kimono into a mompe ensemble. And this is what happened to most cotton and linen kimono at that time. They were retailored into more convenient clothes that was just a top shirt, which still looked like a kimono, and the mompe. That war image is probably one of those reasons why people don't wear mompe that often anymore. But there are people actually rediscovering mompe and starting to wear it again. And I also think that they are very cute and make kimonos so convenient. And I'm gonna show you how to make your own mompe in my DIY next week. But you might now think, stop. You said that hakama was only for men and women couldn't wear that. So suddenly women could wear it again. When did that happen? And yes, only men could wear hakama during the Edo period. But after the Edo period, which is called Meiji era, and it's the end of the 19th century, girls started to go to school, and many schools had blue or violet or brown hakama as a school uniform. So many schoolgirls started to wear it. Actually, also the working women who started to work in offices actually started to wear hakama because they had to sit for a long time and the front skirt of the kimono would open up. When you wear a hakama, this wouldn't bother you. But still, way more schoolgirls wore hakama, so this image is still alive today, and it's one of the reasons why students, female students, wear a hakama ensemble to their graduation ceremony of their universities. And recently, by the way, also trend for elementary schoolers, middle schoolers, and high schoolers to wear a hakama to their graduation ceremony. To sum it up, the hakama has a history that is longer than 1,600 years, and it was one of the first garments we know that Japanese had worn. It also was influenced by the European trousers. The hakama became shorter and tighter and make it more convenient to live in it, work in it, or even fight in it. So you can see that Japanese were actually pretty aware of how inconvenient kimono are, but that was okay, because those layers of long silk were actually a statement of status. Kimono and hakama today are already a way simpler garment than they used to be. And by the way, today we know more than 11 types of hakama, and I only talked about 5 of them in this video. So when you want to see more videos like this, where I talk about the history of kimono, let me know down below in the comments, share this video, or just leave me a thumb up. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I talk to you next week. Bye!